You know what? Let me tell you something that'll make your blood run cold. My own son, the boy I carried for 9 months, nursed through fevers, sent to college, just locked me in my garage like I was some rabid animal. Can you imagine? 73 years old. And this is what my life had come to. I'm sitting here in what used to be Robert's pride and joy. This 4-car garage where he kept his Cadillacs all polished and perfect. Now it's my prison. You hear that automatic lock click? That's the sound of your own flesh and blood deciding you're disposable. Marcus. I called out, and honey, let me tell you, my voice still had some fight in it despite everything. This isn't funny anymore. But you know what I got back? Nothing. Just silence and the hum of that air conditioning. Thank the Lord it was still working, or I'd have been cooked alive in there. 7 days. That's all it took for my whole world to crumble after I signed those papers. Can you believe that? 7 days for the son I raised, educated, and built an empire for to turn me into a prisoner in my own home. Through the door, I could hear them upstairs, probably going through my jewelry, appraising my antiques like vultures at a yard sale. 40 years of memories being turned into dollar signs. Have you ever felt betrayal that cuts so deep you can taste it? That's where I was. But here's the thing, and this is important, so listen close. Marcus made one crucial mistake. My fingers found that burner phone tucked deep in my house dress pocket. The one they didn't know about. The one that was about to bring his whole world crashing down. 7 days earlier. Let me paint you a picture of how this all started, because you need to understand just how clever my son thought he was being. Picture this. It's 6 a.m., I'm in my kitchen with my morning coffee, and suddenly my favorite mug, the one Robert gave me for our 25th anniversary, slips right out of my hands. Crashes to the floor like my heart was about to. But it wasn't the broken porcelain that scared me. It was seeing Marcus standing in my doorway, looking like he hadn't slept, holding a key I'd never given him. Mama, you know I love you, right? Now when your grown child starts a conversation like that at dawn, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? Something's wrong, right? Real wrong. Marcus, baby, how did you get in here? What's happening? I had a key made months ago. For emergencies. Just said it like it was nothing. Like breaking into your mama's house was perfectly normal. Here's where it gets ugly, and I want you to really hear this part. He started talking about the house being too big for me, about medical bills, about how I was hemorrhaging money. Using words like weapons, you know? Then my phone rang. And when I saw that caller ID, Mercy General Hospital, Collections, I felt my knees go weak. Marcus answered MY phone. In MY kitchen. Can you imagine the audacity? $47,000, mama. That's what you still owe for daddy's final month. $47,000? But Robert's insurance was supposed to. How could we owe that much? And then, oh, this is where it gets really twisted. He points out my window. You see those men in that black car? Those are process servers. Sign these papers today, or they serve you with lawsuits from the hospital, the IRS, 3 different creditors. What would you have done? Your son is telling you you're broke, showing you legal papers thicker than a phone book, and there are actual men in suits watching your house like you're some kind of criminal. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the pen. But I signed. God help me. I signed everything. You know how sometimes you get that feeling in your gut that something's not right? Well, 3 days later, that feeling was screaming at me. I tried to check my bank account online, just to see how the transfers were going. And guess what? My passwords didn't work. None of them. So I called Marcus. Oh, that's just a security thing, Mama. I'll get you the new passwords tomorrow. Tomorrow came and went. You know what that feels like? When your own child starts avoiding your calls. It's like watching someone die while they're still breathing. Then I drove to Marcus and Linda's house, the place where I was supposedly going to live, and found it empty with a for sale sign in the yard. That's when I knew. Really knew. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I Googled my own name. And honey, let me tell you what I found. My company, Washington Development, the business Robert and I built from nothing, sold. My house. This house where I raised my children, where I held Robert's hand as he took his last breath. Listed for sale. Have you ever seen your entire life erased on a computer screen? It's a special kind of hell. I called Marcus 57 times that day. 57. You know how I know? Because I counted every single rejected call. That's when I knew I had to fight back. But how do you fight your own child? Now here's where the story gets interesting, and I need you to understand something about me. I didn't get to be a successful black woman in business by being naive or unprepared. You see, after Robert died, when I was drowning in grief and couldn't think straight, I did something that seemed crazy at the time. I started hiding things. Important things. Behind Robert's old workbench, I'd loosened a brick in the wall. Inside that space was a waterproof pouch with a second burner phone, a USB drive, and a list of phone numbers that could destroy Marcus with a single call. But first, I needed to know exactly how deep this betrayal went. For 40 years, I'd been recording every important business meeting. Robert used to tease me about it. Said I was paranoid. But let me ask you something. When you're one of the few black-owned construction companies in Atlanta, dealing with contracts worth millions, can you really afford not to be careful? So I had recordings. Lots of them. I plugged in my earphones and played back the audio from 7 days earlier. Marcus's voice cold as winter. The old lady signed everything. Yeah, all of it. House, company, everything. Then another voice, gravelly like cigarettes and bad decisions. And she has no idea about the medical bill scam? Not a clue. Jerome might be a problem though. He's been sniffing around asking questions. Handle it. We're too close to let some old lawyer ruin this. Jerome. Robert's best friend since childhood. The man who'd been like an uncle to Marcus. Don't worry. By next week, she'll be locked away somewhere safe, and Jerome will be too busy dealing with his own problems to cause trouble. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just planning to rob me. They were planning to hurt Jerome. I dialed his number, praying I wasn't too late. Jerome's been in a car accident. Those words hit me like lightning when Detective Morrison called me back. You know Jerome, Robert's best friend, the sharpest legal mind in Georgia. The man who'd been trying to help me figure out what was happening. How bad? I whispered. Someone forced him off Highway 285 around midnight. Cut his brake lines, Dolores. He's in intensive care, fighting for his life. I sat down hard on that garage floor. Jerome was dying because he'd tried to help me. Because my own son saw him as a threat. Can you imagine carrying that guilt? Knowing someone you love is fighting for their life because they tried to protect you? Detective, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I need you to listen to something. I played him that recording, Marcus talking about handling Jerome. You should have heard Morrison's sharp intake of breath. Jesus, Dolores. We need to get you out of there. Now. No. And you know what? In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt since Robert died. Power. If I disappear, they'll know something's up. They'll destroy evidence, maybe hurt someone else. I stay put, and we catch them all. It's too dangerous. Honey, I'm already in danger. But now I'm dangerous too. That's when I started making calls. Real calls. The kind that wake people up and change lives. Patricia Hendricks at City Planning. She owed me favors from when we donated to her campaign. Patricia, I need you to access every city contract Washington Development has touched in the past 2 years. Tonight. Marcus Williams at the DA's office, his office, paid for partly with Washington family donations. Sarah Chun at Channel 2. She'd been wanting an exclusive story about corruption in city contracts. And then the big one. Federal agent Anthony Patterson. A man I'd only recently learned was Robert's son. The son he'd never been able to acknowledge. By sunset on my second day in that garage, 6 different investigations were launching. All because they thought trapping me would keep me quiet. Honey, they had no idea who they were dealing with. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Patricia. Holy shit. Check your email. Now, I'd set up a secure email account years ago, the kind Marcus didn't know about. What Patricia sent me made my stomach turn, but also filled me with righteous fury. You want to know what my son had really been doing with the company his father and I built? He wasn't just stealing. He was running a full-scale money laundering operation. That elementary school renovation that was supposed to create 200 jobs? Only 12 people actually worked on it. The affordable housing complex with $8 million in federal funding? Built with materials so cheap that 2 buildings were already showing cracks. But here's the part that really got me. That senior living facility where Marcus planned to have me committed? It was funded with fraudulent VA loans meant for disabled veterans. There was a wait list of elderly people who'd already paid deposits for rooms that would never exist. My son was stealing from veterans. From children. From families who just wanted a decent place to live. Sarah Chun from Channel 2 called me around 3 a.m. "Mrs. Washington, this is huge. But I need someone willing to go on camera." "You'll have it," I told her. "But not yet. How would you like exclusive footage of Marcus Washington confessing to multiple felonies?" "How are you going to get that?" "By making him think he's one." Then I called Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the doctor whose forged signature was on my commitment papers. Woke her right up at 3:30 a.m. "Dr. Harper? This is Dolores Washington, the woman you declared mentally incompetent without ever meeting." The silence on that line was beautiful. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Marcus and tell him his plan is working perfectly, that the commitment papers will be processed tomorrow morning. Or would you prefer the FBI visit your office to discuss medical fraud?" By dawn, every piece was in motion. But the real surprise was that unmarked van that pulled up at 5 a.m., carrying Agent Anthony Patterson and a team of federal investigators. Marcus thought he was coming home to celebrate. Instead, he was walking into the most carefully orchestrated trap in Atlanta's history. And you know what? I was ready for him. The morning of day 3, I heard multiple cars pulling into my driveway. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from anticipation. When that garage door rumbled open and sunlight flooded in, there was Marcus, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Hair messy, tie crooked, and behind him, Linda clutching her purse like it could protect her from what was coming. "Mama," he said, and I could hear the fear in his voice now. "We need to talk." "Oh, now we need to talk?" I stood up slow and deliberate, every inch the queen of my own castle. After 3 days of being locked up like an animal? It wasn't supposed to be 3 days. "Don't you dare blame your wife for your cowardice, Marcus Robert Washington. You know what happens when you use your child's full name like that?" Even at 45 years old, he flinched like he was 5 again. "Don't talk to me about Daddy," he exploded. "You think I don't know what it was like, living in his shadow? Everything was always about Robert Washington, and how his perfect son would carry on the legacy. And there it was. The truth finally. After all these years, my son's jealousy and resentment came pouring out like poison from a wound. I built it bigger than he ever dreamed. Spit was flying from his mouth now. I took what was rightfully mine. By stealing it, I said quietly. By taking what I deserved. 20 years of Marcus do this and Marcus handle that, while he got all the credit. Well, now it's Marcus's company. Looking at his face, twisted with bitterness and greed, I saw a stranger. When had my baby boy become this? "You want to know the truth, Mama? The nursing home was a kindness. At least there, you wouldn't have to face what's coming." "And what's coming, baby?" His smile made my skin crawl. "Bankruptcy. Scandal. Federal charges. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about Jerome and his investigation?" That's when I smiled. Really smiled, for the first time in months. "Oh, Marcus. You always were too smart for your own good." "You see, baby," I said, walking toward him nice and slow. "You're absolutely right about one thing. I did keep secrets. But not the ones you think." I reached into my house dress and pulled out that digital recorder that had been running for the past 10 minutes. "Thank you for confessing to 3 felonies and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. The district attorney is going to love this." You should have seen his face go white. You can't." "Can't what?" "Can't protect myself from my own son trying to steal everything I worked for." I clicked that recorder off with satisfaction. "Son, I was recording business meetings before you were born." But that was just the appetizer. You want to know what else I did while you were busy congratulating yourself? I called Detective Morrison, Robert's nephew who works fraud division. He's been very interested in those construction contracts where materials never got delivered, but somehow got paid for anyway. Linda's face went pale. Marcus, what is she talking about? $3.2 million, Linda. My voice was gentle now, like I was talking to my grandchildren. That's how much your husband embezzled from city contracts. Money for schools and affordable housing that went to pay for your new car and that vacation house in Hilton Head. She's lying, Marcus stammered. She's old, she's confused. I'm also wearing a wire. The silence was so complete you could hear a pin drop. Detective Morrison is listening to every word from his car at the end of the driveway, along with 2 federal agents, because stealing federal housing money is a federal crime. Marcus's legs gave out. He just sat down hard on that garage floor, head in his hands. But here's what really broke my heart, and I need you to understand this. It wasn't enough for you to steal from me, Marcus. You had to try to erase me. Make me disappear like I never mattered, like everything I built didn't exist. I knelt down beside him. Do you have any idea what that feels like? To have your own child try to make you vanish. But I'm not vanishing, baby. And neither is the truth. When those handcuffs clicked into place, Marcus actually laughed. Can you believe that? You know what's funny, Mama? I actually admire what you did. The planning, the execution. It's exactly what Daddy would have done. No. My voice could have cut glass. Your father never would have stolen from veterans. Never would have put children at risk with cheap construction. Never would have tried to murder his best friend. Murder. His eyes went wide. What are you talking about? Jerome's brake lines, Marcus. The accident that nearly killed him. The color drained from his face. I didn't. That wasn't me. I would never. Then who? I studied his face like I used to when he was little, and claimed he didn't break the lamp. The confusion in his eyes was real. Who else knew Jerome was investigating you? That's when Agent Patterson stepped forward, and honey, let me tell you, seeing him up close was like seeing Robert's ghost. Same strong jaw, same intelligent eyes that had made my husband so handsome. Your partner, Anthony said quietly. Vincent Romano. The man with the gravelly voice on your recorded calls. He tried to kill Jerome Patterson. My father, he continued, and Marcus's head snapped up. Jerome Patterson raised me when my biological father couldn't acknowledge his illegitimate son. You could have knocked Marcus over with a feather. You're Robert Washington's son. Your half-brother. And the federal agent who's been investigating your crimes for 6 months. Anthony's voice was steady, but I could see the pain underneath. Jerome is the only father I've ever known, and you had him run off the road. I didn't know. Marcus's voice cracked like a teenager's. Romano said he'd handle the Jerome problem, but I thought he meant bribes, threats, not attempted murder. You never thought? Anthony stepped closer. You destroyed a company that employed 300 people. You stole money meant for homeless veterans. You built schools so cheap they could collapse and kill children. And you never thought. Watching my 2 sons face each other. The one I'd raised who'd lost his way, and the one I'd never known who somehow embodied everything Robert stood for, broke my heart and filled it at the same time. There's something else, I said, pulling out the final piece of evidence. Marcus, you want to know why I really started recording everything 6 months ago? I held up Robert's real medical file. Your father knew he was dying months before we told you. The doctors gave him 6 weeks, but Robert Washington was no quitter. He spent those weeks investigating every deal you'd made, every contract you'd signed. Marcus collapsed completely then. He knew what you'd become, baby, and it broke his heart. But he also knew there was another son out there, one who might carry on what we'd really built. I looked at Anthony. He left instructions. $2 million from his personal accounts. Money you've been stealing thinking it was company assets. It was meant for Anthony, to fund the Robert Washington Memorial Housing Initiative. That's impossible, Marcus whispered. You've been committing federal wire fraud, stealing from a charitable trust. Detective Morrison stepped forward with more handcuffs. Marcus Washington, you're under arrest for theft of federal funds. As they read him his rights, Marcus looked up at me one last time. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knelt beside him, touched his cheek gentle like. I know you are, baby. But sorry doesn't fix those broken schools or house those homeless veterans. My voice broke a little. Your father loved you so much. We both did. But love without integrity is just poison. Watching them lead my son away while standing next to the son I'd never known. Well, that's a pain and a joy I can't even begin to describe. 6 months later, I'm sitting in Robert's study reading about Marcus's sentencing. 25 years. 25 years for destroying everything his father and I built. Linda took the kids and moved back to Alabama. Can't say I blame her. The shame of it all was overwhelming. But those children are still my grandchildren, and I made sure they know they're welcome here anytime. Anthony knocked on my door, carrying coffee for both of us. This man who's Robert's son but Jerome's boy, who somehow got the best of both fathers without knowing either one growing up. How are you handling all this? He asked, settling into Robert's chair like he belonged there. You know what it's taught me? I said. Family isn't just about blood. It's about love, loyalty, and doing right by each other. Marcus forgot that. But you never did. We sat there comfortable like, drinking coffee and reading like we'd been doing it for years instead of months. I've been thinking, Anthony said, about starting something new. Patterson, Washington development. Focused on affordable housing, community development. The work Dad believed in but never got to do on a large scale. I looked at this young man with Robert's eyes and Robert's dreams. You want to go into business with a 74-year-old woman who spent 3 days locked in her own garage? His grin was pure Robert Washington. I want to go into business with a woman who outsmarted everyone who tried to take advantage of her, and exposed a federal conspiracy using nothing but a burner phone and 40 years of experience. You know what I did? I laughed. Really laughed, for the first time since Robert died. Jerome says you're not ready to retire yet. Something about having too much fight left in you. Jerome always was too smart for his own good. Just like his son. 2 years later, there I was at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Patterson, Washington development had just finished 60 affordable homes built right where Marcus's corruption used to stand. The irony wasn't lost on me. My son had tried to destroy everything we built, but from those ashes rose something better. Something that honored Robert's memory by helping families achieve the dreams we'd started with. Anthony stood beside me with those big scissors, Jerome beaming from the crowd despite still walking with a cane from his accident. Behind us, families were moving into homes they never thought they could afford. You ready for this, partner? Anthony asked. I looked out at those families, those children playing in yards that would have been parking lots if Marcus had won. And I smiled. Baby, I've been ready for this my whole life. I just didn't know it yet. When that ribbon fell and the crowd cheered, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The satisfaction of a job well done and a legacy secured. Not the legacy I'd planned, but the one I'd fought for and earned. At 76, I was just getting started. That garage that nearly became my tomb? It became my catalyst. The son who tried to erase me only made me stronger. The family I thought I'd lost expanded in ways I never imagined. And somewhere, I know Robert is laughing with pride at his stubborn wife who refused to disappear, who turned betrayal into triumph, and who proved that Washington steel doesn't just endure. It gets stronger with every test. What would you have done? When your own blood turns against you, when everything you've built is crumbling, when you're locked away and forgotten? Would you have found the strength to fight back? I did. And let me tell you, it was worth every single battle.